Welcome to Everyday Tarot, your daily dive into the divine wisdom of the tarot. I'm your host, Camille A. Saunders, healer, tarot enthusiast, and your local witch next door. And today I'm talking about the Seven of Swords. Whether you're a seasoned tarot reader or just starting to explore, this podcast offers daily insights, intuitive messages, and practical advice drawn from the cards. Each episode is designed to help you connect with your inner wisdom, find clarity in your decisions, and tap into the energy of the universe. Tune in every day, Monday through Friday, for fresh perspectives and empowering guidance from the tarot as interpreted by me. If you love the show, the best way to support it is by listening daily, leaving a review, and subscribing or following in your favorite podcast app. For monthly hangouts, tarot Q&As, and more, join the Everyday Tarot Patreon family. If you're local to the greater Puget Sound area, check out the Let's Talk Tarot meetup group for the latest event postings. And if you're not local to my area, you can join me for a virtual tarot card creation event on Friday, June 20th at 5 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. I'll give you a list of recommended supplies, we'll meet online, and I'll walk you through the process of creating your own cards. Get the date on your calendar now and be on the lookout for the sign-up page coming soon. If you're interested in my free PDF with the 2025 5-card tarot spread I created just for you at the beginning of this year, you can get that by joining my newsletter list. My weekly newsletter always has the most up-to-date information on upcoming events, presentations, and more. And if you don't already know, I'm a sex and relationships therapist seeing clients virtually all over Washington State. I love working with queer, poly, and witchy clients who might be struggling with anxiety, chronic pain or illness, communication issues, self-advocacy, and sex. You can go ahead and go to my website and book a free consultation now where I can answer any of your questions, talk about my therapeutic style, and make sure that we're a good fit to work together. You can find the links for any of these offers in the show notes or on my website, CamilleASaunders.com/everydaytarot, in addition to the images of the cards I pull on each episode. All right, welcome to Season 8 and Episode 100. I kind of can't believe I'm here. I was actually just talking to the person that helps me do the show notes for some of the episodes now, or for all the episodes now, and the graphics for social media and such. And we was talking about my microphone, and I have this tiny microphone that like clips to my lapel. If you ever watch like TikTok or Instagram Reels, it's like the tiny one that people will like hold up to their mouth. And that is what I've been using for 100 episodes. And it's very convenient. It plugs into my phone, which is lovely. But I also know it's definitely not the best recording microphone for podcasting. So I'm thinking now that I have reached this milestone of episode 100 that I'm going to celebrate by buying a new microphone, which will be a reward for you and me. Just because, yeah, my sound quality can kind of vary. So you can look forward to that in the future. But today I'm talking all about the Suit of Swords, going through, each card, one per episode. If you haven't listened to my other seasons yet, go check them out. So season 1 was all about tarot basics. Seasons 2 and 3, I went through all the major arcana cards and an overview of the 4 suits. Season 4, I talked tarot and pop culture. Season 5, I went through 13 common tarot spreads. Season 6 was the Suit of Wands. Season 7, the Suit of Pentacles. And now here we are in Season 8, talking all about the Suit of Swords. And if you want to hear an episode dedicated to an overview of the whole Suit of Swords, you can check out episode 37. But today we're talking specifically about the Seven of Swords. So if you have a tarot deck, go ahead, pull it out and rifle through and find your Seven of Swords card and take a look as I talk about some of the common images or symbols for this card. So a lot of them are sort of some level of like combat, fighting. I said violence, but it's not necessarily that. It's just this sort of like cataclysm. There's like masks, spies, and also self-sabotage. So those are some of the themes along with this card. So I'm looking at 3 versions of this card across 3 different decks. In the Ophidia Rosa Tarot deck by Leela and Olive, the Seven of Swords is depicted with, it's like a bouquet of flowers that's upside down. And then in the middle of the card, we have like a winding snake, and then they have a sword sort of almost as if they were holding it, but it's like in between one of their little spirals of a snake. Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead. I love this deck. It's very beautiful, but it has very brief card descriptions, and they're sort of cryptic, which is actually the theme of this card. Is this sort of like wearing masks, or that there's some like underlying something going on that's maybe not totally clear on the surface. But okay, so this one says for the Seven of Swords, charmed by self-lovers, armed for the others. Um, yeah, which is interesting because we get this like bouquet of flowers, which I could imagine as this like self love aspect, buying yourself flowers. Shout out to Miley Cyrus with her flowers song. I can buy myself flowers. I actually have that lyric tattooed on my arm, so I'm very into that. And then we also have armed for the others, right? So it's like there's this double-edged sword of we have like taking care of ourselves, but also like feeling this like defensive aspect of like, but also I have to like maintain appearances, or I have to look the certain way that people perceive me this way. That's sort of how I'm interpreting this card here. In the Desert Illuminations Tarot deck by Lindsay D. Williams, the sword suit are changed to daggers to go with the theme of the Southwest in this deck. And so the Seven of Daggers has a masked bandita wielding multiple daggers up toward a stormy sky. She is triumphant in her successful attempts at deception. We can't see her facial expression. Is she smirking or smiling joyfully? A master of disguise, she is able to get what she wants through planning. She could be using these powers for good or evil. It is indeed a double-edged sword. Are you a victim of betrayal by others, or have you even betrayed yourself? This card warns you about other people's lies and sneaky behavior and reminds you to keep your eyes wide open. Some people go through life wearing a mask to hide who they truly are. When it comes to living your own truth, make sure you are not presenting a false facade to the world. Most people will catch on to it in time. If we make the choice to live authentically, we can enjoy a fulfilling life with more intimate relationships. So there's also this sort of theme of, right, that we have this like deception, but of course the other side, or the sort of alternative side to deception, is authenticity. So this card is sort of cautioning, right, either telling you to look out for some deception or making sure you're not deceiving yourself. So lastly, I'm looking at the Anima Mundi Tarot deck by Megan Wyra London, and all of the swords cards in this deck are depicted with birds on them, or like feathers, or things associated with birds. I believe that's because the suit is associated with air signs, or like the air element, and obviously birds occupy a lot of the airspace, or that is the realm in which they live a lot of the time. And this one depicts a raven. It says the Seven of Swords is about deception and being sneaky about a situation rather than facing it head on. It may be you or someone in your life who's going behind the backs of others. When drawing this card, be sure to reflect on your intentions and make sure they are pure. It says upright, it's about deception, betrayal, selfishness, secrecy, stealth, and being a lone wolf. Interesting there. So, in the Library of Esoterica, tarot book by Tashin, they say that the Seven of Swords is about masks, self-deception, and illusions. The Seven of Swords connotes subterfuge and warns against manipulation and dishonesty, particularly with oneself. So again, there's sort of this like, while maybe on the surface it looks like you should be looking out for other people deceiving you, it's also about like, where are you lying to yourself? Where are you, yeah, sort of like not maybe taking yourself seriously, or maybe falling into more of a like victim mindset of like, oh, I can't do that. I don't know how. I don't know what I want. That's definitely sometimes how mine shows up in that way, to be honest. Yeah, so let's check out some of the books I have and see if they can give us some more information about this card. So in the Tarot and Astrology book by Corinne Kenner, she says the Seven of Swords is associated with the moon in Aquarius. Shielded in shadows and obscurity, the moon slips into Aquarius under the cover of night. We normally see the moon as a glowing high priestess. Here in the third decan of Aquarius, she shows us her dark side, and her presence stirs primal fears of mystery and deception. Aquarius, the sign of social groups and causes, isn't generally prone to reflection. The sign prefers starlight to moonlight, and its ruling planet, Uranus, often wants to mount rebellions and insurrections simply for the sake of revolution. The Seven of Swords depicts one of its agents of change, a spy, a thief in the night, an infiltrator in the enemy camp. The thief could be an unwelcome opponent, collecting weapons to weaken, intimidate, or humiliate his opposition. He could be the rightful owner of the swords, reclaiming property that was unjustly taken from his own army of fighters. He might even be a commander, testing the readiness of his own troops. In either case, the Seven of Swords illustrates the dark side of the moon and its corresponding landscape of loss and confusion. The Golden Dawn designers of this card called the moon in Aquarius the Lord of Unstable Effort, because it illustrates the shifting world of shadows and gloom. The card could portray the death of a dream or the difficult process of establishing a new reality. In a tarot reading, the Seven of Swords often represents an untrustworthy associate, a former friend bent on revenge, or the surreptitious recovery of stolen property. And again, I think that's like the very literal interpretation of the card. In the Fearless Tarot book by Elliot Adam, they talk about that the Seven of Swords is about outwitting your own obstacles. Suggests that you don't have to fight life's challenges, but instead use your intelligence to bypass what appears fixed or immovable. The Seven of Swords reminds you that it's not over until it's over. There's usually a way to succeed if you don't give up. You are cleverer than your current challenges, but you must think smarter and not work harder. Do you give up easily when life sends you setbacks, or do you find a way around them? Have you used your wits to outsmart a situation that looked hopeless? Are you tired of fighting against one life barrier after another? Don't get mad, get smart. It says the thief depicted on the Seven of Swords is a brilliant tactician. In the background, you see an army has invaded the homeland. They've set up camps and are conferring with one another about how they will divide the invaded territory. Instead of fighting the whole army by himself, the trickster on the card uses his wits to outsmart them. While the troops are distracted, he creeps in and steals 5 of their 7 weapons, greatly diminishing their strength. Instead of fighting or retreating, he uses his mind to find a brilliant solution to a present impasse. So not every challenge in life needs to be approached with a fight or flight instinct. Sometimes all that is required is your mind or systematically reviewing the challenge from all angles. Sometimes you can find a way around the obstacle with much less frustration and angst. And it also suggests that you apply this different perspective to what currently appears hopeless. It makes me think about sort of the Hanged Man card also, which is all about viewing things from a different perspective, right? Sometimes new things can be scary and we might avoid them. If you listen to my episode on the Six of Swords, that was a lot about moving and being in transition, being on a journey, and that sometimes we're on this way to this new level or new thing for us, and sometimes we can be inclined to not want to make it all the way there because that would require a lot of us. So this card's telling us, right, using your wits will give you immense power over any obstacle you're currently confronting. So yeah, I like the sort of distillation of that, of like, work smarter, not harder. And finally, in the Tarot for Change book by Jessica Dorr, she speaks about that the Seven of Swords is often read as a card of deceit or betrayal. A person with a trickster's gait has 5 swords in hand as he steals away, looking over his shoulder, lest he be caught and found out to be a thief. Sure, we often can't help but view this card as an omen or warning sign that trickery is afoot somewhere amongst those we're close to, but you can also see it as an invitation to identify the part of our own psychology that says, hey, look over there when we should be looking right there. The part that pulls the wool down over our own eyes and that distorts information as a matter of some old, outdated relational habit. This line of inquiry offers a pathway toward understanding what in us drives the urge to forge relationships with those who cannot be trusted in the first place and gives us something to work with within ourselves, which really makes me think about boundaries, right? Like, again, because some of the theme of this card can be like the self-sabotage aspect or like lying to ourselves, right? There might be people in your life or situations where we might be willfully ignoring red flags because we want to believe that this is a good person or a good right job. It's going to be so great. It's going to be better than I, had before. And like we're really trying to convince ourselves of that. And sometimes, right, this card's sort of telling us that like, be careful because you might end up in a situation where because you were right sort of ignoring some of the warning signs or allowing yourself to right take things at face value instead of sort of feeling like what was your intuition saying or what did you get bad vibes about the situation even though everything on paper looks good. um, this card is sort of telling us, right, that like maybe we can examine that part of ourselves that wants the too good to be true thing so badly that we step over our own boundaries or we acquiesce or we give someone another chance when really we know perhaps in the back of our mind that like it's not the best option for us or it's not the best fit, even if we really wish that it was. All right, so let's dive in and see what the cards have to say today on this topic. And I'm pulling cards from the Citadel, a Fantasy Oracle by Ben Inkwright. And I'm thinking about, again, that idea of how do we how do we reconcile the part of us that is sort of right allowing the too good to be true thing to feel that way, and how do we honor our intuition even when maybe like all right the facts point one way or the job description, well, everything sounds good, even though when maybe you interviewed in person, you just got like a weird vibe. And, right, how do we listen to our intuition even when other people are maybe telling us that, no, just go along with it, just do it? And how do we honor ourselves? And how do we, right, honor our own authenticity and not be afraid of confronting the parts of ourselves that might be not so, I was going to say pretty. I don't really like that word, but just like, right, if we think about what they were talking about in this tarot and astrology, the moon in Aquarius, like the moon in tarot has this sort of like the underworld, like deceit, illusions, um, like tint to it because it is shadowy. It is right. The sun is reflecting off of it, which is why we can see it. But it is the sort of watery. It pulls the tides, right? It changes a lot of things around us in a way that I think sometimes we don't even fully appreciate or understand. Certainly. Um, and so, just in that sense as well, we have to think about the parts of ourselves that are sort of under the surface that maybe we don't always like showing to other people, but that, right, if we can reflect and sort of think about it or think about how those patterns maybe didn't serve us in the past, we can think about what might we want to do differently in the future. Okay, I pulled the miser, stubbornness, and inflexibility, but in reverse. So we are not going to be stubborn or inflexible. That's my brief interpretation here. Okay, let me get into the book and actually find what it says, the miser. So I'm going to read the reverse since it is reversed. And it says this is an authoritative power in your life who is causing a sense of oppression and discomfort, creating difficulties in their need to dominate others and control each situation. This power may even be you. The structures that have been put in place to provide stability have become rigid and controlling and aren't benefiting anyone anymore. Accept that changing the way it's always been done isn't always a negative thing. Well, there you go, right? Like that is I feel like the lesson here is that when things are changing, right, and we're moving away from how it's always been done, that can be a good thing. I know, at least in this country, our politics do not always reflect that idea. But I think there are a lot of us that would like to not go back to how it was and would to like to continue to become more progressive and more inclusive and more revolutionary, and take care of each other in this way. And I think, right, part of that is we have to learn about those parts of ourselves that have been maybe convoluted when we have to participate in societies and structures and governments that are abusive, controlling, patriarchal, capitalistic, for example. All right, I'll end there on that fun topic now. But yeah, right, this card's calling us into more flexibility, right? Encompassing different ideas and to not get stuck in our same ways, but to allow, right, to make different choices so that we can take different paths in the future, even though that's scary and even though we don't know where it leads and even though it's unknown, right? I think that's really what this is about. So links for the tarot decks I talk about will be in the show notes and on my website if you'd like to look at them or purchase them. And thanks for joining me today on Everyday Tarot. Just a reminder, the podcast comes out daily, Monday through Friday for all of 2025. All right, see you soon. Bye-bye.